I'm not grouchy. I just need that dip.
Following for some time tonight, an arrest made days after the killing of a Vancouver mom and her 8-year-old daughter.
Our Joelle Jones in Vancouver with the latest on this heartbreaking story.
Kirkland Warren, the ex-boyfriend of Michelle Melendez, has now been charged with her murder, along with the murder of her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart. A spokesperson for the family tells us they're at a loss for words as they get ready to bury the Vancouver mother and daughter together after a crime they say never should have happened.
My babies were failed by the system. And that's from Nicole.
At 5 a.m. on March 12, 2023, 27-year-old Michelle Melendez and her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart, were last seen leaving a Vancouver, Washington area residence in a burgundy Dodge Charger alongside Michelle's ex-boyfriend, Kirkland C. Warren. Within days, family and friends reported them missing, and their now empty apartment, with the family pet still inside, raised immediate concern. Law enforcement swiftly identified Warren as a person of interest amid reports he had recently faced domestic violence and firearms charges involving Michelle. On March 22, a caller in rural Washougal, Washington, reported 2 objects resembling life-sized mannequins down an embankment. Deputies discovered the bodies of Melendez and Layla shortly after. Evidence seized during the investigation, including blood, shell casings, and personal items, would become central to a criminal case that ultimately led to a life sentence in Clark County Superior Court.
Our family has been torn apart by grief and the endless questions that haunt us every day. Why?
The family of Michelle Melendez and Layla Stewart getting some level of justice tonight as the man who murdered them is sentenced to life in prison. Good evening. Thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
And I'm Deborah Knapp. Kirkland Warren pleaded guilty in the deaths of his former girlfriend and her 7-year-old daughter last month. K2's Emily Gersh joins us live from Vancouver. So, Emily, how did family members of the victims react to seeing Warren in court today?
Yeah, Deb, well, emotions were high in that courtroom today. Family members of Michelle and Layla called Warren a monster, a child molester, and a coward as he left the courtroom in handcuffs.
The loss of Layla has left a void in my heart that can never be filled. Every day, I wake up with the pain knowing that my little girl will never grow up.
We were brutally murdered and sodomized by a monster, a soulless being put on this planet, a narcissist.
Family members of Michelle Melendez and her daughter Layla Stewart, who was only 7 when she was killed, did not hold back at Kirkland Warren's sentencing Tuesday.
We'll never see her smile again or hear her laughter. We'll never see her grow, achieve her dreams, or the life she deserves.
The bodies of Melendez and Stewart were found off a rural road outside Washougal in March 2023, days after they were reported missing. They both had bullet wounds to the head, and DNA matching Warren's was found on Stewart, indicating sexual abuse. The prosecuting attorney choked up multiple times when describing the details of that crime.
To cowardly put their half-clothed bodies thrown down a ravine and to make the family suffer for 10 days searching.
The family's representative and domestic violence advocate, Michelle Bart, was not satisfied with the sentence.
He raped a 7-year-old and then shot her and killed her.
At the time of their deaths, Warren was also wanted for a 2017 murder in Arkansas that he was out on bail for. Bart would have liked to see a stricter sentence to ensure he's never set free.
2 life sentences without the possibility of parole would have been nice.
Now, the mother of Michelle Melendez and grandmother of Layla Stewart was in court today, but a victim advocate read her statement to the judge. It read in part, quote, "The day I lost them, I lost myself. A part of me died with my girls." We're live in Vancouver. Emily Gersh, K2 News.
Emily, thank you.
This is Facebook Crime. We deliver clear, factual, and up-to-date true crime stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed on the latest cases and investigations. Michelle Melendez was a 27-year-old mother living in Vancouver, Washington. She worked to support herself and her daughter and maintained close contact with family members. Those close to her later told investigators that Michelle had been attempting to separate herself from a volatile relationship and had taken legal steps to do so. In the months leading up to her death, Michelle sought protection through the court system. She filed for a domestic violence protection order against her former boyfriend, citing threats and firearm-related incidents. Court records show that she expressed fear for her safety and concern for her child. Lila Stewart was Michelle's 7-year-old daughter. She lived with her mother full-time and attended school in the Vancouver area. Lila had no known connection to the suspect outside of her mother's relationship. Investigators later emphasized that Lila was not a peripheral victim but a central part of the case, as evidence showed she was directly targeted. Michelle Melendez previously dated Kirkland C. Warren. The relationship was described in court filings as unstable and marked by repeated conflict. After the relationship ended, Michelle attempted to limit contact. Court documents revealed that Warren had previously fired a gun during a dispute involving Michelle. This incident led to criminal charges and the issuance of a domestic violence protection order prohibiting him from contacting her or possessing firearms. Despite these restrictions, Warren was later released on bail for separate offenses. At the time of Michelle's disappearance, he was legally barred from contacting her, but was not being electronically monitored. Several risk factors were present before the murders: a recent breakup, a documented history of firearm use, a protective order, bail release after violent conduct, continued access to vehicles and weapons. These indicators would later become central to public criticism of the system's response. On the night of March 11th into the early morning of March 12th, Michelle and Lila were seen at a residence in the Vancouver area. Witnesses later told police that Kirkland Warren was present. Security footage and witness statements placed Michelle and Lila leaving the location in a vehicle associated with Warren in the early morning hours. This would be the last confirmed sighting of both victims alive. Following that night, communication from Michelle abruptly stopped. Family members noted that she missed planned contacts and failed to respond to calls or messages, which they described as highly unusual. On March 18th, concerned family members requested a welfare check at Michelle's apartment. Officers found the residence empty, but Michelle's dog was still inside. There were no signs of a planned departure. The absence of both Michelle and Lila, combined with the presence of the dog and personal belongings, prompted police to open a missing persons investigation. Investigators quickly identified Kirkland Warren as a person of interest based on his last known contact with Michelle, the active protection order, his prior arrest history, and vehicle information linked to the night of the disappearance. On March 21, 2023, Warren was arrested on charges unrelated to the homicide investigation, including tampering with a witness, violation of a domestic violence protection order, and firearm-related offenses. This arrest allowed law enforcement to secure and search vehicles connected to him. Searches of the vehicles revealed bloodstains, spent shell casings, clothing matching Lila's last known outfit, and personal items belonging to Michelle. These findings elevated the case from a missing persons investigation to a suspected homicide. On March 22nd, a passerby reported seeing two objects resembling life-sized mannequins down an embankment near a rural roadway in Washougal, Washington. Deputies responded and discovered the bodies of an adult woman and a child concealed in brush. The location was remote and not easily visible from the road. The bodies were confirmed to be Michelle Melendez and Lila Stewart. autopsy findings determined Michelle Melendez died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Lila Stewart suffered multiple gunshot wounds to the head. Ballistics analysis indicated the use of a small caliber firearm. Blood evidence matched the victims through DNA testing. Phone records, GPS data, and surveillance footage were used to reconstruct movement patterns before and after the murders. This evidence placed Warren in proximity to both victims and the disposal site. During the investigation, forensic testing uncovered evidence that led to additional criminal charges involving sexual assault on Lila. These findings significantly expanded the scope of the prosecution. Warren formally charged with aggravated first-degree murder, second-degree murder, violation of a domestic violence protection order. Following forensic analysis, prosecutors added child rape and child molestation. These charges were supported by DNA evidence and medical examiner findings. In 2024, Warren entered a guilty plea to multiple charges, including murder and child sexual assault. The plea eliminated the need for a trial and ensured a permanent prison sentence. In October 2024, a Clark County Superior Court judge sentenced Warren to a life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence reflected the severity of the crimes and the presence of aggravating factors, including a child victim, a violation of a protection order, and prior violent history. One of the most scrutinized aspects of the case was Warren's release on bail shortly before the murders, despite an active firearm-related charges, a documented domestic violence history, and a no-contact order. The case highlighted limitations in enforcing protective orders when defendants are not actively monitored. Advocates later argued that existing risk assessment tools failed to prevent escalation in this case. The murders of Michelle Melendez and Lila Stewart were not isolated events, but the final outcome of a documented pattern of violence, legal intervention, and missed prevention opportunities. The investigation revealed how prior warnings, court decisions, and enforcement limitations intersected in a fatal way. While the legal process concluded with a life sentence, the case continues to be referenced as an example of the consequences of system gaps in domestic violence cases involving firearms and children. Thanks for watching. Did you find this case informative? If you want more true crime stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed on the latest cases and investigations.